How do you guys feel about a light?
Huh?
It feels dark. I can turn it on.
Little things. Come on.
Yes.
Thanks, Hector. Sweet.
Thanks, Hector.
Okay. Are we all good to go? We have Counselor Greider with us.
Oh, nice.
Yay!
Oh,
And I'm happy to call the roll whenever you'd like.
This is so weird.
Okay, perfect.
Echo.
What was that?
Is there an echo? Oh, okay. I was wondering if,
Do you need a minute, Hector? I think that means okay. Okay, great. Good evening.
Good evening.
good evening.
It is 6:02 and I'm calling the Talent Urban Renewal Agency General Meeting of October 10th, 2023 to order. Roll call, please, Tom.
Yes, Chair Ayers Flood. Vice Chair Perry Miller,
Here.
Member Byers,
Here.
Member Pastizo, Member Greider,
Here.
Member Podomreth,
Here.
and Member Clark.
here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. I guess I didn't gavel.
Gavel.
There. Okay, thank you, Tom. So item number 2 on the agenda is speakers heard on non-agenda items. Tom, do we have any speaker request forms that you know of
We
on
did
non-agenda?
not receive any
Okay, Great.
today.
moving right along. I guess I should look in the audience to see if there are hands. The Zoom audience. We have a hand up from Craig Roden, Mayor. Hector?
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, Craig. Can you please state your name and your city for the record?
Yes, my name is Craig Rodenmeyer, and I didn't catch the last. Talent, Oregon.
Sorry,
Hello?
did you say Talent, Oregon?
Yes, I apologize. We were actually on our way to the meeting. We were delayed with an accident on Interstate 5, so I apologize that I'm not there in person.
So Craig, you have something for non-agenda items?
Well, with respect to this meeting, the Talent Urban Renewal Association, we are leasing the historic church building up on the corner of South First and Wagner Road. And we are wanting to make an appeal to the board of directors to ask if there might be an allowance for us to be included in consideration for grant money for the historic building, despite the fact that we're about 150 yards to the south of the delineation border of the urban boundary.
So Craig, we are not able to respond to folks who speak under non-agenda items. My recommendation would be to have you connect with Tom. He can explain further how the urban renewal boundary is, but at this point we cannot respond to your question.
I'd be happy to Craig at a later date and kind of go over the criteria for inclusion in the program. But before that, I'll do a little research and figure out how, if at all, the board is able to make adjustments to the boundary. There were instances in Central Point when I was there where the council / urban renewal agency was able to make some exceptions, but it kind of depends on how it was built originally. And I'd be happy to meet with Craig and And
Yeah.
after,
Yeah, that would be amazing, Tom. So, sir, what is your last name?
Humphrey,
Humphreys.
I think we met
Okay.
once before.
Yeah, we have met. Okay, so just get a hold of you during normal business hours.
Yes, I'll be in the office tomorrow and Thursday. And I'm happy to take a phone call or get your number and we can set something up.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I'm sorry to interrupt the meeting. We didn't know what the protocol was.
Thank you, Craig. Member Byers?
Just a quick note on that. You might put together that information in a non entity specific way, because I do know of a couple other business owners that had similar questions about could there be some sort of variance to include them in the current urban renewal project. And I feel like that could be a great source of info for them to have as
Okay.
well.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about the ramifications of that on funding
Mhm.
in a little bit. So.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you, Tom. So we're moving along to item number 3, which is the consent calendar. There's 3 items on the consent calendar. I have not had a chance to review the financial packets. Have you guys been able to review those? I'm not sure if we can just push those back. Member Panamara?
Yeah, I'm just wondering about the resolution for the check signers. That's probably something standard that you need. I would move to approve that and just hold back on the financials so we have a chance to review them, because I think it's just informational. You don't need us to do anything with the financials.
No, I was just going to draw your attention to those items that I circled, just so that you know what some of our
Oh, please,
grant
yeah.
related expenditures are, and that's really part and parcel with the conversation we'll have in a little bit about
Mhm.
the grant awards. And then there is a financial report which I've distributed to you and we'll give to members not present tonight when they either in the office or at another meeting, but we have received a financial report, kind of an assessment of TURA's standing. And so that was not on the agenda either. And that might be something you could consider with the financials for July and August. And then we'll have a new set at the next meeting for September.
So are you saying that we can pull the 2 financial packets and wait to approve those in November?
Yes,
Okay. Okay.
if you're comfortable doing that.
Yeah, just so folks have a chance to review them.
And one of the other dilemmas I have is that my finance director is typically has a conflict this evening. She's with the Historical Society and unable to be present to answer questions. So we might figure out another way to do that next time, and maybe she can excuse herself from that meeting.
So Member Panamara, you had a motion?
Yeah, I would just move to approve the well, I don't know if Tom wants to give a report on any of this as well, but I would, at the end of it, I would just move to approve the resolution updating signers.
Mhm.
But if you'd like to clue us in on circled numbers or something, I think that's great to hear that now.
Okay.
As
you'd like to do that
well.
now?
Sure.
For July, I just wanted to point out, since we have a new applicant from Malgrim Garage, I just wanted to note that they're making a concerted effort to restore that building and maintain its historic significance. You can see in July where we've been a pass-through for state of Oregon money through a grant. So that came and went quickly, and I think they're using it to their advantage at the property. And then in August, I just wanted to point out so that you knew we've made a couple of disbursements to grant recipients who we'll talk about tonight under the category of prepay. The people who qualified, whom we previously approved for restoration grants, if they were in the amount of $15,000, they were entitled to a preliminary disbursement to kind of get the ball rolling. So those two $4,500 revitalization grant amounts fell into that category, and then the person who received the $3,000 disbursement was only asking for 10, so that was a 30% award there. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention so that you know that we have been making some disbursements, and there are others who would like us to make some disbursements, and we'll get into that in a little bit.
Great. Member Panamara, can I make a recommendation?
Sure.
It might be better just for the record if we have a vote to move those two financial packets to November.
Oh,
then-
yeah.
And then we can vote on the resolution.
Okay, great. So I move to pull items 3.1 and 3.2 from the consent calendar and postpone those to our next regular meeting.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to pull items 3.1 and 3.2 and move those to the next regularly scheduled meeting. Any discussion?
Oh, just even though we have them in this packet, if they could be included in the electronic packet for next time,
Yes.
because I can never get my hands on the last for whatever reason.
Yeah, sorry, guys. This
No, it's.
is running.
No, that's fine. That's normal. That's fine. It's just that the next packet, rather than refer to a previous packet, just gets me lost.
Yeah, we'll put
So
it back in,
that'd be great. Thank you.
and you can compare month to month.
Yeah, that's great. Great.
So we
Okay.
had a motion made by member Palmer, and seconded by member Byers. So,
Indeed.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. The motion passes. Thank you. Thanks, Tom. We did that. We had to do this last month too, so.
Okay,
Okay, so now we have item 3.3, which is a resolution number 2023-03, updating signers on TURA bank accounts. I think we need a roll call for this.
Is there a staff report?
so in my report, just simply a kind of a standard business practice now that the previous city manager and executive director has left. I find myself in a position having to sign, or would like to be able to sign over the finance director's signature and give the mayor a break when it comes to reimbursements, disbursements, and so forth. So this is since the banks and institutions with whom we do business normally require a resolution designating or updating which officials are authorized. And so, and as you can see from the resolution, we've identified myself, finance director, the mayor, and in this case, Vice Chair Clark. However, I think we probably need to amend that.
Correct. Just
Sorry, just
noticing that.
Just that one.
don't
So
think
it'll be Vice Chair Paramiller, and we'll correct that prior to signature. Sorry, I didn't catch that. Right?
all right.
Great. I'll entertain the motion.
I move to approve resolution number 23-03, a resolution of the Urban Renewal Agency of the City of Talent authorizing bank depositories and signatures as amended.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve resolution number 2023-03, a resolution of the Urban Renewal Agency of the City of Talent authorizing bank depository signatories. Roll call, please.
Chairman Iris Flood. Member Pearmiller,
Yes.
Member Byers,
Yes.
Member Pestizo, Member Greider,
Yes.
Member Panamarev,
Yes.
Member Clark.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thanks, Tom.
You're welcome. You're getting the hang of this.
Okay. Item number 4 is items from the executive director. 4.1 is update on Gateway Transitional Housing Program access. Staff report?
Yes, ma'am. I did have a conversation with Rose Reiser, and then a follow-up email with Joe, who oversees the housing program for access. You asked in a previous meeting that we get a kind of a fix on what's going on in the gateway and how many of the trailers are occupied, and if those occupants are members, fire survivors and so forth. And so as of October 9th, yesterday, there were 51 of the 53 travel trailers occupied still by families of the fire, waiting for help in transition from, in some cases, so there 51 of the 53 are occupied, and there's still room for, I guess, other occupants because they have a waiting list, as I mentioned here, of some 50 fire survivor households. So when I talk with Rose, there's been a group assembled called the Center for Community Resilience, which is part of the, I guess, the access umbrella, and they maintain a candidate list. And their intention is to move people into more permanent housing, and they identified a couple of different locations. Perhaps you've heard of the New Spirit project in Medford, which is a poured concrete home, and that's going to be a little while before that comes to fruition and can be occupied. But those are, Joe mentioned that their intention is to work toward home ownership for these folks, and so that's a candidate for home ownership. They also identified Royal Oaks and Phoenix. However, some of my staff members today said that there's some inherent issues with that have yet to be resolved, and so that's probably not, that won't absorb any of the folks from the gateway. And then Talent Mobile Estates to move people into that complex. And then they says they're also looking at permanent rental options, and that's where the Renaissance Flats would come into play once that's completed. I know my planning director suggested that would be a viable candidate, but as Joe mentioned, they're trying to get folks into not only permanent housing, but also owner-occupied housing if at all possible. And there are a few options, but they're probably competitive going forward. In the meantime, they're making some improvements to the trailers. They've had some folks, I think I mentioned here, they are putting down vapor barriers inside the trailers because they've had some issues with moisture under the mattresses. So they have somebody installing vapor barriers, and then they're working to employ a local contractor to install skirting around each of the units to retain heat and lower some of the utility costs as we go into the winter. I did ask whether they, well, and as you can see in my comments with Joe, they will be in communication with us in the event that they have trailers that are consistently vacant, so that we can consider removing them or moving them to another location. And just as a for instance, in talking with our public work, well, our directors this morning, the idea of perhaps pulling trailers occasionally as they become vacant and will not be reoccupied, and moving them into a surplus category where they can be bid on and purchased at an auction. And so that's in the back of our minds when we have the ability to move them. So that's, I don't know if that answers all your question. Yes,
I thought the state still retained ownership of those trailers.
I'm sorry.
Am I incorrect in that?
I was trying to remember the previous conversation going back to spring or something. And it
Yeah.
was,
On ownership?
yeah,
Yeah, TURA owns them.
TURA.
Officially now? I know we went under the process of receiving the titles, but it's been a long convoluted journey, so I appreciate the clarification.
Yeah, and other correspondence between Jordan and Access, that I seem to remember that they don't have any use for them. There's nothing they can really do. They don't fit into a manufactured home park, given the fact that they're travel trailers. And so, because we're the owners, we would find ourselves in the position of having to figure out what to do with them. And that seemed like a legitimate and reasonable step if we can move them to a location where they can be auctioned.
Member Penamara?
I also remember discussions early on, and I don't know where they wound up, of the idea of having these trailers available to the occupants for equity.
They have had that conversation, and then again, the question is, where could they move them? Or where most of the mobile home parks, manufactured home parks are not taking travel trailers, they're taking manufactured homes, and so that becomes part of the dilemma. I mean, it's a generous offer and idea, but it may be more problematic, particularly if you want to get people in permanent housing. So this is to be continued, but that's the immediate. The 51 and 53 are occupied by families who are considered fire survivors. They have a waiting list of others who would like to occupy them once those families move. And so for the foreseeable future, I think we're going to see trailers. But I would continue to work toward the ultimate development or build out of the gateway when it's possible.
Member Byers, did you have a question?
No.
Okay. So 50 families on the wait list. Over 50 families, approximately 50 families still on the wait list. And Access is still involved in trying to find the families permanent housing.
Correct.
And do they have, I'm assuming they have some kind of caseworker for each family, and they meet with them and they assess the different options in the area?
Yeah, and that's what note here, that this Center for Community Resilience, or CCR, was created in August of 2021, so 2 years ago. And it includes case managers from state of Oregon and other local agencies. And I would guess that if they're on a wait list and they can't get into the gateway, they'll move them, they'll have opportunities elsewhere. But it's amazing, and it's been 3 years, and there's still people. I'm afraid there's still people in motels.
Yeah,
There are. I do have a question.
Member Byers?
Do we know if Renaissance Flats is prioritizing folks displaced by the fire in their applicant process?
I don't, whether they're talent applicants or just fire applicants.
Either. I would be curious to know.
Well, I'm sorry, for the gateway or for another location?
No, the Renaissance
The
Flats.
Renaissance Flats. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
But I will find out. And because I think Kristen told me today that Renaissance Flat was being overseen by Access, or had Access had some role in that. Is that not
It's
okay?
It's my understanding that it's supposed to be affordable housing, so it seems to me like there would be some overlap and oversight, which is why I was curious.
Member Panamara?
I'll just say it's, in these conversations, and I'm not, 100% sure, but what I've been gleaning is that Access is seen as pretty much the case manager, the agent of getting people into, permanent housing. And if Royal Oaks hadn't had, the problem with units, there would be people, living there now. So that happened. New Spirit is also probably a couple years away. Talent Mobile Estates, do we know anything about the timeline there? I don't.
I do.
You do?
Right now, CASA of Oregon is waiting for funding to come through from the federal government to the state government to be dispersed to them to do their final bits and pieces, but they are just waiting for that. That is the only thing that is holding up getting people into.
And they'll be able to get, is it mobile units?
They're looking at mobile units, yeah.
Okay, so they just lack the funding for it, but they can get their hands on.
To the best of my knowledge,
Yeah,
yes.
because
This
there
was
was
the
a
last
supply.
update. This was the last update at their board of directors meeting.
Okay, because of the supply thing. Yeah, and then my understanding Renaissance Flats, like you said, is affordable, and I think all affordable housing is prioritizing fire survivors. Housing Authority of Jackson County is as well. So
Great. Anything else?
I'll keep you updated. If something else changes, I'll let you know, or this can be a regular item if you'd like, just as we have these TURA meetings.
It's nice for the community to know. We get a lot of questions about the gateway, and there's lots of rumors that fly around. So, it's nice to have an update.
Right. And I mean, I've heard, that I was doing a little research on this with Jordan, and my inclination would be if she had told me that until the trailers are removed, you really can't do anything, but you have 3 different tax lots there. And if there were enough trailers that could be relocated, perhaps a lot line adjustment could then take place, and then part of the property could be developed independent of the trailer.
along those lines, that was the discussion when we first set it up. We saw that it seemed like it would be possible to, just as you're saying, maybe build something tall and narrow along like the apartment complex or whatever along 99, and still have plenty of room for those trailers for folks to stay. So, and it was foreseen as something that could be done in phases.
Well, to the degree that we can, or find someone who's willing to do that, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, you want to make it safe, but you can live next to construction. I think we all have know people or who have actually lived next to construction in the past. So it's not impossible, but we do want to be, very cognizant of the families, little kids and stuff. Make sure it's safe for everybody. That would be a major concern. But assuming that those needs could be met, I think we probably should be thinking about possibly phasing it.
Member Clark?
Yeah. Yeah, just only concern there would be, wanting to have a cohesive plan, kind of moving towards a cohesive plan rather than, 3 separate ideas that may or may not mesh well together, I guess, I wouldn't want to sacrifice having a cohesive plan for the whole site if we can avoid it. But if the need for the transitional housing declines, as we hope it will, as these other things come online and we're able to get started on a segment and hold back on other segments, and we're able to do that, I think, yeah, we should consider it.
Member Byers?
On this note, it's a question for you, Tom. are there other items you need us to discuss or expand upon? I know you're doing work to seek out an RFP so that we have a shovel-ready plan when we have space to develop there. So I'm wondering what else we might need to discuss.
Yeah, I cannot discuss it tonight,
Yeah.
and but you're right. I think there are things we can do with the RFP. Of course, my idea or the strategy was to see if we could find somebody who's doing what you would like to see happen elsewhere, and then attract them and tailor an RFP to attract those types of businesses.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And I'm sorry, I wasn't implying we talk about it tonight. I know it needs to be an agenda item and all of that, but like beginning to think about what we
Yeah.
might want on November's agenda. Mhm.
Yeah, because I know there was a lot of angst about allowing the trailers in there to begin with, given the urban renewal plan.
Mhm.
But, you know, life happens while you're busy planning other things, and I think this was a important step the city took, but now it's assuring the people who were fretting about these becoming permanent and reassuring them that they're not. They're still a temporary fix. There's still a lot of people in need, and it just takes time to
Yep.
recover. But yeah, we won't lose sight of it. Or I won't lose sight of the bubble there.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, moving on. Item 4.2 is status of revitalization grant applications.
So what I did to make this a little simpler, I know that in the past Jordan kind of broke these down individually, and I kind of went through a packet yesterday to see if I get my arms around what projects are in the queue, what people lack to provide TURA in order to be paid or reimbursed, and other ones that might be new to the process, and there are a couple of new ones here. And you know, it occurred to me while I was working on this last night, and went to sleep and woke up in the middle of the night realizing, because I read somewhere, we budgeted $100,000 for this process, and if we have 7 applicants that all want 15 grand, we've already surpassed our budget. So we don't. We have 7 applicants, and the majority would like a $15,000 award. However, there are others that are asking for less, so we still are within our budget. But we should be conscious of the fact that we do have some limitations, and we may not be able to say yes to everyone as we proceed. But I did want to highlight, I kind of put them in order of, well, the oldest has been the Gather Cafe, and I went through and managed to get a handle on their invoices. And so tonight, you know, they were involved in doing exterior painting, landscaping, irrigation, wood planters, and sun sails and side curtains. According to the community development director, signage was not permitted, but they have done a fair amount of work, and they've provided invoices to the tune of $6,500. And so tonight, my recommendation to you would be to authorize me to reimburse them for those expenditures. They've signed agreements. The only thing that they haven't provided me yet that I think finance would like to have is a W-9. And once I get that, we can disperse or reimburse them.
Member Penumbra?
So my question is on process. If I remember correctly, we authorized the grant, these grants, to the recipients, and then they need to follow the process to get reimbursed. I'm just wondering, are you asking for it sounded like you're asking for authorization to reimburse?
Well, you know, not being that familiar with it, I was just assuming that the polite thing to do would be to ask you for permission to do that.
Ah.
However, it probably, once I get the W-9 and authorization to sign on behalf of TURA, I think I would be inclined to write him a check, but
Yeah.
I
it's-
did want to,
It looks, yeah.
I wanted to appear a little more humble in my approach.
Well, I
But
think
if you're clarifying that for me,
you know, and I'm just this is just kind of like the way we've always done it. And I think that if you and the finance director feel that everything's in order,
okay.
there wouldn't be any reason, I think, that we would have to do anything, unless it was like you felt like it was different than what we all expected and that you needed a judgment call.
Well, I will need a judgment call on the last two items this evening, but
Okay.
provided I get the W-9, I think we've satisfactorily received the receipts for the Gather Cafe, and I can write a check for $65.35. I talked with the Talent Club today and received I didn't have a record of the agreement that she'd entered into with Jordan, and so she brought that to me today along with a W-9. So when they start incurring costs and can document those, we can begin reimbursement. And their request is limited to $13,500, as you can see. The osteopathic healthcare, you authorized the prepayment, which, as I pointed out earlier this evening, is allowable under the guidelines. And so I've not seen any invoices, but we have made a disbursement of $4,500 for their landscape design, irrigation, and installation. The Sweet Beet Station, most of us see that every day. They've installed their storage shed, the associated fence, painting. There'll be some in the planter boxes, which are notable, and they were given a prepayment as well. So once I receive the W-9 form from there, and amounts over 10,000 require, actually amounts over 5,000 require some sort of an insurance right or demonstration that they've got coverage in the event that there's an accident on the property or during construction. So they will, my expectation there is for W-9, there's an agreement in place, W-9 insurance, and then we can start receiving invoices and making disbursements. Any questions?
Was there an update to the Art Bop application?
That's the next one.
Oh, great.
And I expected, I was told that, well, I wasn't told, I saw that Jordan had communications with Art Bop, and that their request is probably going to go up. I do have some documentation from Plant Oregon to suggest that they would like to request an amendment to their original award that would probably increase it to about $2,500, but I've not received that. So I've just simply noted that is the status. They were given a prepayment as well of $3,000. I said the applicant may request an increase in grant award, and then we'll simply reimburse them for any incurred costs. So I'm awaiting that request to bring to you.
Quick question about that.
Oh, member Byers.
If you're referencing Plant Oregon, did Art Bop apply not just for this revitalization grant, but also for the tree grant?
No, it was all part of their application, and
Okay.
they had an initial estimate from Plant Oregon of $825, and that has increased. There was a second, so the first application was 10 yards pet friendly bark and 5 yards of gravel, and then of course the artwork that they received authorization for, but then they've come up with a subsequent estimate for labor to install and compact the gravel. To create beds along the front of the building for planting pollinators. And bring in a mix of flowering perennials. So I think the initial application wasn't, I mean, it was probably a minimalist approach, and this has become a little more elaborate and decorative so it's an increase of probably about $2,600.
Mhm.
And so Jordan's message to them, and I'll reiterate, we'd like to have a request for an amendment, and then I can bring that back to you. In the meantime, they would have an ample amount of money given our prepayment
Mhm.
to proceed. And then once they start producing invoices, we can pay them up to $10,000.
Mhm.
So that's, hopefully that answers that question. The next one on the list, and I'll update this as we go along. I just needed to have something a
Mhm.
little more structured, so I could give you the big picture. I guess I didn't have it. Biscuits and Vinyl, they requested $2,000. They have not, I'm actually waiting qualifying paperwork. So Jordan created a grant agreement that these folks have yet to sign. So I need to have that in place, and then they can start incurring costs and be reimbursed, provided they have the agreement, W-9. And, it's not an expensive ask because they're taking what was a temporary sign and they're making it more permanent. So that'd be
Great.
the two new ones. Bonnie's here tonight to talk a little bit about the Malgrim Garage. We also have Seaver's Corner, and that's a historic location. We actually received a request from Terry Lawrence relative to that property, and they'll be spending a fair amount more than the 15,000, but they provided us some material history to the property, and Kristen has taken that. She's going to put it on the architectural review committee agenda because she determined we needed to go there, and so she's actually slipped it into their agenda for next week to see what their read might be, so that we can kind of move this along. I know that the applicant was a little concerned that we'd get into weather and they wouldn't be able to replace siding and paint. But there were a couple of steps needed to be taken for that. So it's replacing existing siding, repainting the building, and replacing awnings. There's a collection of buildings.
So, question,
Member Penumbra.
so am I right in my memory is that this is where there's that, Big Town Small Heart mural? Is that
Yes.
building that you see? So you can see it right there on 99.
I don't think they have any plans to remove the mural. It's the
Mhm.
siding and paint that was blistered from the fire and just from age. And it's kind of fascinating to read the history, because the couple who started that grocery store originally had one in Florence, but decided to come inland. They found the property, it had a house on it.
Mhm.
He acquired the property while his wife continued to run the grocery store in Florence. And there was an occupant of the house who didn't want to leave, either at the request of the previous owner or the new owner. And so he says, well, I could get him out of there. And he started to take walls off of the house. And eventually the gentleman left, and he built a store. Okay, so it was a grocery store there initially, and now it's become kind of I won't say hodgepodge, but maybe I could say hodgepodge is a collection of different businesses at that location.
Mhm.
Member Byers.
I'm sorry, it is connected to this discussion and presentation that you're making right now. By my math that I'm doing just as you're sharing, we have $100,000 total of grant money to allocate, and allowing for the last decision we made about granting, which included for the talent club to also be able to be reimbursed for up to $15,000. We have $72,000 total that have been committed to different businesses, which means we have $18,000 total to divide potentially between the two applicants before us tonight, correct?
We have. Now. I didn't understand all of your math there. But so the talent club was there a decision other than the one to authorize them or to grant them 13,562?
I'm going off of this note in the furthest right-hand column that says confirm reimbursement up to full grant amount of $15,000 if necessary.
Oh, sure, okay.
So I'm just trying to track these numbers at the back of my mind as we're going through these discussion of grant application.
Yeah, so we are still within, so all of these numbers still bring us in under budget, but we would probably be hard pressed to allow another applicant for $15,000 into the picture.
Correct. So we have two applications before us tonight requesting a total of $30,000, which would put us at 102. So I am just wanting to confirm that my math is correct really quickly since it impacts our discussion
What,
tonight.
102 if talent club goes up to 15,000.
Correct, but we don't know that yet, but we have allowed for that, correct?
60. 90. Yeah, 102, that's correct.
Great, thank you. Thank you. That helps me in the thoughts I'm holding and the other questions I will be asking.
More questions from staff? Other questions for staff?
Just if is stuff complete.
The last one
I
is
can wait, go ahead.
the Malgrim Garage, and Bonnie's here to talk a little bit more about this, but what this is an award to help restore the garage by reinforcing the front facade with a polymer to meet seismic standards. And then she also applied for a tree grant, but that's a separate
Separate grant.
separate situation. So yeah, it would be, that would take us to 102. Yeah.
Member Clark?
Just curious about the, what the grant allows for regarding signage, because it says that was not permitted under gather. Is that because their sign didn't meet code or because it's not permitted under the grant?
No,
So
it's
I
under the sign and meet code. So,
Okay,
yeah, it was just, Kristen looked at it. I guess that what they wanted to do was not consistent with the municipal code. So,
okay,
but there've been other instances with the, I've already mentioned, the Biscuits and Vinyl are doing a sign.
Yeah.
With other businesses.
Okay.
So
I just
that's
wanted to
part of
clear
it.
that up.
Any other questions? Bonnie, did you do a? Great, come on.
Go plug you in.
Do we need to, Bonnie, fill out the speaker question? I think she did.
So I'm Bonnie Morgan and I own Malvern Garage. And I just wanted you guys to be aware that I submitted an application in July for the revitalization grant and for $15,000. And unfortunately, I submitted it through the Talent Business Alliance website. And Jordan never got the application because the emails were somehow not being forwarded. And so when we were not on the agenda for the August meeting, and I was concerned about that because I had met all of the deadlines. And I also at the same time had applied for a beautification grant. And so, yeah, you guys are running out of money. So I just want to say it'd be really great to have some help from the city for the rebuild. We're looking at a project, the front wall of the building is what I applied for. it's $48,000 to stabilize that wall, and so I'm asking for some help. On that. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. I mean, it looked to me like you guys were awarding them just as they came in, so that's why it's important for me to say, hey, I fell through the cracks.
Sure.
Because of the way the emails were not being forwarded, and then we didn't have a meeting last month, was canceled, so, anyway, I just wanted to, you know, put that out there, so you guys all.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bonnie. Did you fill out the speaker request form?
No,
Okay, could you do one just so we can give it to staff
of
for the,
course.
for the record? Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. Member Clark?
Yeah, my take on this grant program is that we budgeted some money for this purpose. We accepted applications over a long period with don't believe I don't I'm not aware of any deadlines regarding application. I see we received one less than a month ago from Seaver's Corner. Unless I am misunderstanding, you know, my understanding was that we would approve acceptable applications that meet the requirements and intention of the grant until the budget was spent. And so my inclination would be that that we have to that if we have to cut the you know, the amount of the ask for any applicant or reduce the award amount, that would be for the last applicant to get their application in.
Yes.
Doesn't TURA have a contingency fund in our budget? Jordan was always saying, don't worry, there's other money that TURA can, you know, move into this fund. We just decided that it would be 100,000 at the beginning of this
Well,
year.
I'd be happy to look. I'd be happy to look, and then we would probably need a budget amendment. And I will say that, you know, my recommendation here is for the talent club, you know, they probably are gonna go with what they've come in at. The Gather Cafe, you know, given the fact that that 15,000 included a sign that they're not going to be using, and it's likely they'll have paint, but I don't see them actually reaching that $15,000 limit in invoices. So a couple of these have had asks, but they're not going to necessarily, you know, arrive at that number or be able to justify, you know, other disbursements. So that's something to keep in mind too. And, you know, this is kind of in flux. And that's why I made this chart, so we can kind of look at it as, you know, we go from month to month. So I will investigate the contingency part of this, and then I would like to have Tessa come and be able to talk to you a little more intelligently about the budget and what outstanding interest payments there are, and, you know, the overall health of what we're using.
Member Byers?
That was a really great point that you made, and I'm curious, I know that in the Gather Cafe application, they had an itemized list of expenses. I would love to know how much they had planned on spending on the sign that doesn't meet code. just so I have a-
18,000 initially, and then the furniture, you know, there's some things when you look through this, remember Clark pointed out, you know, well, what qualifies? Well, signage and awnings, decorative exterior building features, artistic improvements, including art installations. So art box right in there, landscape improvements, shade trees, outdoor lighting, siding, but it doesn't include cash registers, tablets, and I've gotten some invoices for those, or outside furniture, really. It's not listed here, exterior painting. And so part of I guess our determination, you know, from mine and the finance director's point of view is that I don't think this qualifies. I suppose if somebody wanted to appeal our decision and come to you and talk about it, you could discuss that with them. But I think there are a number of things that, as I was going through this packet, noticing that, and I don't think that, you know, they threw everything in, but the kitchen sink, you know, and I think kitchen sink's not one of the things on the grant guidelines.
Member Byers.
Is this specific to the Gather application or in general? Are you
There's a
seeing
couple
this?
of like that, yeah, and yeah, I think there's a couple, but the Gather in particular, there was a lot, well, if they're doing home improvements, you know, there are a lot of invoices to Home Depot and Lowe's, and, you know, they're legitimate. I mean, they spent the money and they have a product, but that'll also be part of my role is going out and taking a look to make sure that,
Mhm.
you know, you paint the building, you know, did you build the boxes? You know, some of them are more obvious because Sweet Beat's right across the street. So, but I need to go out and take a look and see. But I would guess that in most cases, people got the estimate, the contractor will do the work, they'll submit the invoice, and we'll pay them all.
Member Byers.
Sorry, I'm just full of questions tonight. So I'm wondering then if there's anything in our process that you're aware of or that any other board member is aware of where we could delay the approval of one grant while moving forward on the approval of another, so that we can see perhaps how much money might not be appropriately invoiced to us, and we can see how much is actually left in the grant pool.
Yeah. And this evening, so if you chose not to, you know, my statement in the talent club was if necessary, up to the full amount. I think I was referring to a previous note that Jordan had in the file. And so it may not be necessary, or may choose to simply abide by the award amount until such time as they demonstrate that they need the extra, and that would be the same true of the art pop, you know, until they come back with a request for an amendment. And then we are waiting on Seaver's Corner until we get some direction from the Architectural Review Committee, then we can proceed with that.
Okay, thank you. That answers my questions.
Member Penamara.
I'm very comfortable with what we've approved so far and what's before us to approve. If that puts us at a maximum of $102,000 and we had allotted $100,000, I think that's fine. I think that's on the mark. I know contingency is a good chunk of change. I'm less interested in going into contingency just to expand this program beyond the initial footprint, just because we have Gateway, right? And we have an RFP, and that's probably that's the next thing. And I'm very interested also in kind of reducing staff time on this. You know, maybe I don't see other on the agenda, but I mean, as far as other people coming, hey, can I get some of this money? I'm outside of the boundary. I don't know what it was like in Central Point, but the training that we got of how urban renewals works is there would probably need to be a minor amendment or something. And I'm really not interested in putting very precious staff time on jumping through those hoops to get somebody outside the district a few $1,000s in this. I care about your time, Tom. You know, for a program that I think has fulfilled its purpose, and is, as far as I'm concerned, it's and it's great, but it's done. And the thing is, we don't have any more money coming in, and we have the Gateway to do, which is something we want to do really well. So I'm really interested in the next financial presentation where we talk about the budget and where we're at. But I'm really don't want to see this. I think if we've met our goals on this, and I'd like to see it not be something that continues to eat a lot of staff time.
I just wonder if we're, you know, the applications amounts take us slightly over budget with, you know, with the reality of what people will actually spend, it'll probably be a little under budget in the end. But nevertheless, you know, if I'm just thinking about this grant program has done its work, is it time to take it off the shelf? You know, we don't want people, local businesses putting a lot of time into an application when there's no more money in the pot, you know? We don't want to create a false expectation, right? So is this the time to take it off the shelf?
Member Penamra?
I think that's an excellent point. I don't think we should raise any more expectations. I think it would be great to officially sunset this, you know, with the understanding if we have a few $1,000s left over later, well, you know, we can always put that towards Gateway. It's not like, yeah, I really like that idea of sunsetting it so people don't, you know, spend days and days in a fruitless activity.
Mhm.
Member Byers?
I really support that as well.
So I'm wondering, with architectural review, what is the timeline for them working with the Seaver's Corner application? Do you have a sense of how long that process will take?
Well, Kristen will be away next week, but she has talked to the chair of that, I believe it's the chair, and she managed to slip the particulars into that agenda for consideration, or at least discussion. And so that's next Monday, 16th. And so there'll be some decision coming out of that, and then you know, it may result in an amendment to the application or a different choice of materials for siding or something along those lines. In which case I'd have another application, I'd have an amended application for you at the next meeting. And like I say, there may be some closure on one or two of the other ones as well.
Member Penamra?
Yeah, I think we can handle those details as long as you feel that these asks meet the intention of the grant. And that's your recommendation. I'm very comfortable in approving these now, understanding that, you know, there'll be some details to adjust to, and leaving that in your capable hands.
Okay.
Would we also feel comfortable with the slight adjustments that Tom mentioned before with some of these, like Art Bop having some kind of amendment that
Yeah,
they may need?
as long as it's under the 15,000, you mean? I'm fine with that.
I just want to make sure that folks are understanding if they need to resubmit an application so that they're not thinking that we have to make a decision,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. But as long as you feel comfortable with the communication to the applicants, I think that's what I care about. I just want to make sure folks understand our process.
I'm comfortable. And now I've got a better handle on what's going on here.
So any more deliberation? Are we ready to make a motion or two? Member Penamra?
Yeah, I move to approve the remaining two applications. Seaver's Corner for 15,000, Malgrim Garage for 15,000.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve these last two grant applications, one for Seaver's Corner and one for Malmgren Garage in the amount of $15,000 each, pending approval by the Architectural Review Committee, I'm assuming.
Yeah, and you know, they'll have to meet all the whatever requirements. It'll be, you know,
Yeah.
the code, it will always have to be up to code.
Yeah.
But I think we can award it and they either use it correctly or they don't use it.
Okay, great. All in favor? Please
Oh, do you
say,
want
oh,
deliberation?
sorry, deliberation.
I just want to say, since Bonnie's here, I love that building so much. It's really kind of symbolized. I even like it burnt out. That's how much I like it. But I think it really, in a way, it kind of symbolizes talent to me in a way. So I just want to just thank you for hanging in there. And I think and also the other grants. I really think they're sprucing up the town, and I'm excited to see what happens on Seavers Corner as well. So it's pretty neat.
Member Clark.
Yeah, just echo that a little bit. Appreciate Bonnie's long-term commitment to what is, I imagine, a pretty complicated and complex project. And you know, it's an iconic building. It's right squarely in the middle of our downtown, and I don't know what would have come of that space if not for your commitment, but it wouldn't be nearly as cool as what you're doing, and I appreciate it. Yeah.
And second on that,
Second was Byers. Okay. If there's nothing further, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any, oh, sorry, Nicole?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion passes. Thank you for being here, Bonnie, and for all that you do. Did we want to briefly continue that conversation about this grant program? Tom, do you feel like we need to have a formal discussion about the fact that all this money has been allocated now and formally closing it for the time being, or?
well, that would probably be a good idea. I mean, I could, if for some reason this gentleman that wanted to talk to me about the boundaries, you know, I can still talk to him about the boundaries. I think maybe just putting people on notice that we're at the end of our budget or amount of money, and unless other people decide not to spend it, there's a limited reserve, if not.
Member Penamara?
If there's an extra amount of money, it'll be a few $1,000s here or there. I'd kind of like it just to move over into contingency, roll over into the Gateway project. Yeah. I would like to formally sunset it and have that on the website.
Okay.
So that folks don't have these expectations that get disappointed.
I agree. That's quite a good idea. And then when we come back at the next meeting, as I said, I'll do what I can to get Tessa here so that you can see where we are. And then she did have this company prepare this financial report. So I'll give a copy to the mayor and Nicole when they're present, or I guess I can scan them and send it to them as well. But that's something to look at between now and next time, and then we'll be able to give you a better accounting of September disbursements, and you can compare it as we go on. I think one of the things that Tessa pointed out is that we do have a fairly large interest payment, so the amount of $1 million plus is not necessarily $1 million plus. It's quickly receding, and so we will have money, I'm sure, left to work on an RP and so forth. But next meeting we'll try and give you a pretty comprehensive look at what the finances look like, so you're comfortable and I'm comfortable. So.
Great. Member Penamara?
Do you want to entertain a motion to formally sunset the program?
Sure.
Okay, I forget what it's called.
It is called the Revitalization Grant.
I move to sunset the revitalization grant program of TURA and to have the city notify future applicants of that
Second.
sunsetting.
I have a motion and a second to formally sunset the TURA revitalization grant program and to notify future applicants. Any deliberation? Member
Just say,
Penumero?
I just want to say thanks to staff, to Tom, you're new to this, but everybody else who's been working on this, I think it was successful and really cool. So thank you.
Thanks.
Pass that along, please. Yeah, thanks.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? None. Motion passes.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, Tom, are you all good on that?
I am. Thank you.
Great. So that was item 4.2. The next item is 4.3, general updates. Malmgren Garage staff report.
Well, and that was, so Bonnie brought this up when she saw it on the agenda. Because there were a couple of unknowns, I just simply separated it. But we've already covered it, you know, we've incorporated it into the other grant applications, and with Jason's help today, I found the application for tree planting, so, yeah. And then I already told you about the pass-through that they've received from the state, so things are moving along swimmingly.
Member Penumero.
So this will probably come up when Tessa talks to us about the finance, but I think there's like a $700,000 loan. Is that what she's talking about? And it was like, well, we're not paying on that loan yet. So let's wait and see. So I'm just wondering if you know, with your experience and all of that, you know, without money coming in and a way to pay it back, there's probably no use for it unless there's some sort
It's
of,
earning interest, but not a substantial amount, so.
yeah. So there's no, I don't know, some sort of like, make it, you know, sometimes they'll turn into forgivable loans or partially forgivable loans. And I'm just wondering if there's a financial mechanism that that this would be handy for in terms, and it would have to be in the context of the state or federal government actually just kind of granting us money for some projects that they want to see happen. Anyway, I'm just wondering if there's anything that could roll over into.
Okay. Well, I'll ask.
No, I don't, just if in your experience, if you just know of anything, I don't want to give you a task to research because I think Tessa just kind of wants that just to be off the books.
I cannot refer to any particular experience. No.
Okay. Good enough.
Member Clark.
I'll just throw in that at the last urban forestry committee, they recommended approval of the Malmgren Garage application to the beautification grant and are looking forward to consulting with you further. I think you spoke with Jane before, and I let her know that this would be a great time to get in touch with you again. So look forward to that.
Great. Okay, if there's nothing further on this item, we can move on to item number 5, which is items from chair or board members. Does anyone have anything they'd like to bring up? Member Penumero?
I'll just add, I did a tour with RVTD and Firebrand Collective where we stopped at the senior center that Age Plus is working on. And that's very cute and almost done. And then also saw New Spirit Village, which has this really cute curvy little road in it. But yeah, it seems really far away from couple of years out, but a really great model as far as having people build equity. There's some really cool stuff. So if anybody gets a chance to do a tour, that's great. Royal Oaks would have been great as well. It's just that the problems with the homes. And that's so that's a real bummer. Yeah.
Were you talking about Spirit Village?
Did I say Spirit Village?
Well,
Yes,
that's the one that you toured?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know how many units that's gonna be?
It's 89, isn't it?
Hmm?
89.
sounds right. Yeah, I don't recall, but that sounds great.
Well, interestingly enough, Jamie, took off in that direction, and she's been involved in that process as well as the couple from Ashland.
Yeah, it's a really neat model. It's a really
But
neat
they,
model.
they encountered this bureaucratic obstacles, I will say.
Mhm.
Well, I think that from talking to the couple that's doing it, it sounded like there's some engineering innovations that need to be better understood as well. Yeah, that it sounds really cool.
Well, I'm encouraged, if I can say, I noticed in the paper today the purchase of the property behind the theater. I don't know if you read about that.
Mhm.
They've acquired that property, the Camelot Theater, the Maker City, the Malmgren Garage. It just seems like there's a certain energy associated with the core area here, and it's it's just a matter of time before the rest of it comes along. But it requires time and patience and enterprising individuals, and it seems like you've got all of that kind of in the mix. So I think it's personally it's kind of exciting to see what will transpire in the next couple of years.
Great. Anything else? Seeing nothing, moving on to item number 6, which is written communications. There are none. And item number 7 is adjournment. So unless there's anything else,
You have a preference on your next meeting date?
Well, I prefer it be convenient for Tessa. So she doesn't have to miss her historical.
Well, I will check with her. I mean, if we did that, we might need to tack it on to a city council meeting on a Wednesday, but we have all these study sessions and what have you on to get through the rules and so forth. Let me check with her. If you want to keep it, or if you want to remain consistent with the schedule, it'd be November 14th. But if you would like to, the reason I asked that you consider tonight as opposed to next week on the 18th is simply because it seemed like there were a lot of things to go over. And at a subsequent meeting, you won't necessarily have grant applications to review other than just maybe for general information, but you may have Tessa, but it may not take that long.
Member Myers?
If at all possible, my preference would be to, when it works with the necessary study sessions we need to take care of first. I would be really excited to have TURA meetings be on Wednesdays before a city council meeting.
I think in September, at the end of August, I don't know, I can't remember when it was, but we had a conversation about changing the date of the meeting based on schedules. And I know that member Greider had a potential conflict with Tuesdays and that maybe Wednesdays were easier. I'm not sure if that is still the case. Member Greider, do you have thoughts about this?
Yeah, I am not able to get there in person on Tuesdays. I can join virtually on Tuesdays. Sorry, there's a crying baby in the background. And yeah, so if it's before council meetings, that's great. Wednesday evening, Thursday evening, Friday, yeah, just Tuesdays, I would have to be virtual.
We had talked about changing the meeting date to the second Wednesday of the month at 5:45. I know that the mayor was a little bit worried about that not being enough time.
Second Wednesday of the month, I have parks at 6:30.
Sorry, the
The
third
third
Wednesday of the month. And we also had that confusion at
Yeah.
that meeting. The third Wednesday of the month. And I don't know, I'm kind of feeling,
The third Wednesday is council.
yeah, but
Before
before
it.
council.
Oh, gotcha.
I'm feeling like Pestizo isn't here, the mayor isn't here. I'm hesitant for us to make a decision about forever future meetings,
Mhm.
but I don't know when we'll.
For the
all be
next one,
together
maybe?
again.
Mhm.
But to that point, I think we did make a decision in August.
We did, yeah.
About this. Collectively, I think if I remember correctly, we were all here for that.
Well, we were not all here and it was Jordan's last meeting and I think it was one of those miscommunication falling through the cracks kinds of things. So. Yeah. So Tuesdays are not great for council. Is what we.
Yeah, sorry, Monday and Tuesday evening, I would have to join virtually, which is fine for me, but
Well, if you'd like to target November 15th for that joint or the early TURA meeting and then the late council meeting, we can work toward that. And then if you really want to get through the council rules, I think I suggested a special study session with pizza. I don't know if you remember that.
We did.
That might be on a different day,
Mhm.
separate from the council.
Mm.
Member Clark?
Let's see. If the first falls on a Wednesday, that must be November has a fifth Wednesday, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
That could be, just saying. It's an option.
For a study session?
Yeah.
The 29th.
Mhm.
That's after Thanksgiving too, so
Mhm.
Yeah.
maybe have some turkey.
I know that in our August conversation, we talked about 5:45 being the start time. And 5:30.
For what?
I think we might have a hard time getting council copies in here for that, but if we have a quorum otherwise.
Some years ago. TURA started at 6 and city council started at 6:45.
Yeah, right ahead of it.
That would certainly encourage us to move the agenda along.
Well, you may not have, if we sunsetted the one program and you're just getting a kind of a financial assessment, that probably be what it would be limited to, just that financial update. And Tessa would be available and so do you want to do that?
I will just say, I know the mayor was worried about time. Not having enough time. So if the mayor was here
Specific.
sitting on my shoulder, that's what she would say.
Yeah.
Member Panamara?
Yeah, I'll just say that, the study session for council rules is, that can take a long time.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good fifth Wednesday pizza meeting.
Mhm. Mhm.
So you're in favor of tour on the 15th of November, 5:45 or 6?
5:45? Member Clark?
Just this
And
once,
so
Jason.
this will just be the next meeting, and then ideally everyone will be there and we can make a decision about regular meetings after that.
You might have a better sense of where you are financially and how many other meetings you want to have or how frequently you want to meet, what other items you want to discuss.
Yeah,
Mhm.
okay. Member Greider, did you hear that?
Yes, thank you.
Third Wednesday, 5:45. Okay. Thanks, Tom. So item number 7 is adjournment. So if there is not anything further, I'm going to adjourn this meeting at 7:26 PM. Thanks, everyone.